A Message from the Emperor was written by Martin Bresnick, and it's based on a text by Kafka. It's actually an excerpt from a larger work. At the beginning of the piece, the emperor has a dying message for a messenger. So with his last breath, he whispers the message into the ear of this messenger.
The emperor has sent to you
the solitary one, his wretched subject, an evanescent shadow that fled far, far from the imperial sun. Just to you, he has sent forth from his deathbed a message. We never find out what that message is, but he, just to make sure, he has the messenger say it back to him because he's so attached to it. It's so very important, this message. And the rest of the piece is the messenger running through the kingdom, trying to get out of the palace, through the walls, past the people, trying to get the message to you, the audience. The message is to the royal rhetorical you in the story. The piece is in two main sections. In the first section, both performers are playing the vibraphone, and you get all these open, clangy, ringy chords, somewhat dissonant. And that part of the story takes place in the palace.
with a nod. He confirmed the accuracy of the words.
In the first section of the piece, we're both on the vibraphone, and much of what we do is in unison. So we have to breathe together, we have to use our motion together, and you can see that in when you watch the piece. You can see us sort of moving together and making sure that everything we do is precisely together rhythmically. So that's important, and we're also, focused on balance and how both of us sound on the instrument, so that we really sound like one person with 8 mallets on one instrument, rather than sounding like 2 people trying to get things together. And then she's doing all the dampening. She's working the damper pedal and all the vibraphone stuff, even though sometimes I'm playing by myself, so she has to anticipate when I'm going to play and move that pedal with me, even though she's just using her foot and not playing while she's using that damper pedal. And before the assembled spectators of his death, all the blocking walls are torn down, and on the wide, soaring stairways, the notables of the empire stand in a ring. You do run into a lot of pieces as a percussionist where there are spoken words. That's pretty common for us. And we actually asked a colleague of mine in the drama department at the university to come and coach us and give us ideas on how to speak these words. And we had to learn, for instance, not to come down at the end of every phrase. Because when you're normally speaking, every time you end a sentence, you come down in pitch. And that doesn't work, especially if you're trading phrases and one sentence can be 3 or 4 phrases long, and I have the first phrase and she has the second. It doesn't make sense as a sentence if we both come down at the end of our phrase. So we had to practice leaving the last word up which feels a little weird when you're doing it by yourself. Before all these, he dispatched the messenger. At once, the messenger set out on his way. There's a theme of duality running through this piece. So, for instance, there are really only two characters, the emperor and you, and then in between is the messenger. But you have this duality between authority and the rest of us, the audience, the subject of this message. And you also get, the two performers who are trading patterns back and forth, trading spoken word passages back and forth. So you get a lot of sections where one player is playing a rhythmic pattern and the other player is playing a second rhythmic pattern, and then they switch. And this happens back and forth where we're never quite lined up together. We're always sort of in slightly different spaces as we trade this pattern back and forth. And that happens in a lot of different ways. It happens tonally and it happens rhythmically. And throughout the piece, there's just this sort of pull between the two performers. He is still forcing his way through the chambers of the innermost palace. Well, the best moment, of course, is at the very end of the piece, after the messenger has gone through all these trials and tribulations to try and get the message to you. At the very end, the narrator reveals that you sit at your window and you wind up dreaming the message in the early evening. So it's this kind of uncomposerly joke where you already know everything that the composer, or in this case the emperor, is trying to tell you. You already have that information, and all this trouble that the messenger is going through is for naught because you've got it. And it's not a composerly attitude. It's a very uncomposerly thing for Martin to do, to suggest that, if there's an authoritative voice in this piece, it could be the emperor, but it could also be the composer, right? He's sending a message to you, the audience. And it turns out you, the audience, know everything you need to know, and your dreams are every bit as valid as anything a noble emperor is going to say to you and get to you through the journey of a messenger. However, sit at your window and dream the message. When evening comes. This has been a great addition to the repertoire that we play. We were very honored to be a part of this commission and to work closely with Martin. We had some of the earlier performances of this piece, and so we would send him a recording of a rehearsal, and he would send long emails back with lots and lots of comments. It took a lot of back and forth to figure out exactly what he was talking about. I think we tried his patience by the end, and I think he flinches every time he sees an email from me in particular. But it's been great, and it's so different from what else we do, especially with the spoken word part. It really sort of draws the audience in and makes them feel a part of the story. And it's unique in terms of having two narrators bounce things back and forth as we're bouncing our rhythms back and forth, and as we're sort of trading measures back and forth. It's a great sort of duo piece in the strictest sense of the word, because we're two people working as one, and there's those themes running through this whole piece about togetherness versus the vast separation between people in this world, and especially in Kafka.